of Articulation.
Howdy, 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 and welcome to 3 Points of Articulation podcast. Part 3 is coming up today of our kind of get to know you prelude before the main events, really, when we start on our segments and stuff. So I'm joined today by my co-host, Jonathan Fenton.
Or Reed.
And today's episode is going to be focusing on none other than Big Tasty himself, Jamie Wills.
That's me. What about me?
So hopefully you've already tuned in to see part 1 and 2 with myself and Mr. Fenton talking about our kind of early memories. So here goes your chance, Jamie. So first of all, ignoring kind of figures for the very first question, the actual wrestling world itself, what came about to get you in it?
Well, I was in Woolworths, 4 years old, must have been 4, walking around, little bargain bin that you get by the till, red and white videos. They've all got the name of the film on the spine of the videos with a 99p or 1.99. Looked in the bin, found Terminator 2. I was 4 years old. I thought, this is quite cool. Picked it up. My dad at the time, my parents don't care in the early 90s. As an 18, he picked it up for me, bought it, took it home, and inside of that was not Terminator 2. It was the Roy Albert Hall Battle Royal with the Legion of Doom on the front, which the Bulldog won. Being 4 years old, I had no idea if it was Terminator 2 or not. I thought it was Terminator 2, so I was watching it. I was like, Terminator 2 is amazing.
Sounds to me like your dad sort of just thought, all right, son, we'll get you Terminator 2, but actually bought a more appropriate video for you at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I haven't asked him since. But yeah, I think it sort of just picked it up. I thought it was Terminator 2. So for ages, I was thinking Terminator 2 is the best thing ever. Watched it on repeat. Christmas comes around. Mum goes, "What do you want for Christmas?" I said, "Get me a Terminator toy." At the time, no toys were out for the Terminator, as far as I'm aware. Well, I'm in Woolworths anyway. So she's picked me up. I've even brought it with me today to my own house. It was the last action hero, Arnold Schwarzenegger, my first ever toy. I thought it was a wrestling figure, or I thought it was at the time anyway. So that's how I sort of got into it and started then watching more wrestling. And after a while, I sort of realised that it's not Terminator 2. I still haven't seen it, actually. I'm not even sure what happens. Is that any good?
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Different sort of Judgment Day I was into.
Yeah, it's the only Terminator film I've seen. I haven't even seen 1 or 3, but 2's pretty good.
Or 4 or 7.
Or how many there is, I have no idea.
Yeah, so that's sort of how I first watched wrestling.
So it was the battle at the Royal Albert Hall, is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's Royal Albert Hall, British Bulldog.
What do you remember about that video?
Well,
Which
I
wrestlers did you like?
Boss Man, I believe he lost to Earthquake on the event. But I remember Big Boss Man, because obviously when you're younger, you look at policemen as everyday things. So I thought, oh, he's got 2 jobs. So I was sort of thinking, I quite enjoyed Boss Man, but that was the biggest memory of it, was probably that match.
Cool.
Yeah, I honestly haven't watched that since I was a kid. It's kind of brought back my wanting to watch it, I think. So was Alfred Hayes on commentary in that one?
Of course, the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, honestly, I think if you watch that, it brings back early 90s of England in general. Everyone behind the Bulldog at the time as well. It must have been 91, I think it was filmed, give or take. So it was when Bulldog was just getting into his peak. So it's massive over here.
So that kind of leads us on to question 2 then. Based on that, obviously, you got your last action hero figure and you might have thought that was a wrestler, but unfortunately for you, it was not. So what was your earliest kind of memory about figures? Do you remember the first one you got, or did you get a bulk lot, or...?
So my dad used to bring me to this place called Tell's Cafe. It's on the high street. I used to go there every Saturday with him. He used to sit with his mates. I used to play WrestleFest in the arcade. It was I think it was like 10p, maybe 50p a go. He used to give me pound coins at a time. I used to sit there and play it all day, and until I got bored and he'd take me home. So I went from that. I always used to use Big Boss Man at all times on that game. So it was my favourite, and then I got a figure of the Big Boss Man as my first toy, which is my birthday. So I remember that quite well. So having Big Boss Man, who had a big rivalry with Arnie, a la Terminator 2, where the policeman faces Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Which boss man was that? The first one or the second one?
Season 1, the one that's out of shape Boss Man, not that one.
Bad guy boss man.
Yeah, I remember having that. I remember losing the nightstick very early on as well.
Didn't we all?
Yeah.
In fact,
I always preferred
the
the second Big Boss Man, the clothesline one. I remember the first one I ever got didn't have the actual end arm bit. Then I searched for ages to get another one. For some reason in my world, that was quite rare. I don't know if it was in real life, but that one was quite rare for me, and I always loved that one much better.
Yeah, I think it might have been more. I remember picking him up at a boot sale later on in life. That Boss Man, he was quite hard or sought after, should we say, around my ends. There was a few figures that I'd never saw. There was one in particular, Ric Flair. For ages, so there's this guy called AJ, which is my mum's friend's son. He had about 4 figures, and he had like the style. He had Cocoa Beat. It didn't make any sense, the figures that he had. He had a Ric Flair, which I thought was the Red Rooster. So for ages, I just wanted that figure. And yeah, I never had a Ric Flair Hasbro, which is to this day still haunts me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for the rest of them, I sort of pretty much picked up every other one here and there, apart from a few rarer ones that either didn't come over here or just really, really, really sought after. The Dusties of the world.
So one thing we got in with John last time was the kind of the playing aspect with figures. John talked about like hands behind the back for the Royal Rumble type of thing. For me, I was a bit more of a geek in that respect, because I used to jot down all the matches and I used to write down the whole lineup of what was happening, exactly who won. I used to underline the winners and things like that. What was playing with figures entailed for you?
Well, this comes twofold, Adam, as you expect with me being quite a talker. So the first one, we used to play a massive tournament. So at this point, I was 6, 7, from boot sale to boot sale to boot sale, I'd picked up hundreds of figures, and we'd literally line them all up in matches, 1 versus 1, all across the carpet, and then it'd be a massive tournament. Whoever loses goes back in the box, and the winner goes through until we get to the final 2, who are allowed to wrestle in the ring, and then the winner would then remain on top, which that would happen every day after school, literally for about a year, every day. Doink one, I'd say the most out of anyone. The other side of things, which I actually luckily found this earlier in preparation. So we used to play football with them, basically like Sabutio.
I did that.
Yeah, so we used to have 3 videos, 2 for the post, 1 for the crossbar, 1 at the back, and a ping pong ball. We had to pick our starting 11 to start with. And about a year ago, me and my brother sat down and picked the Dream 11 of what you want to get, the sort of ideal top 11. And luckily, I've got them all here. So in goal, we had Michael Hayes, the Galoob, the one that was like this.
Yep.
Right. I'll tell you a story about that in a second. Left and right back, we had Rick Martel, who could put a good ball in with his feet. And we had Skinner, who had a hat, so he was good at keeping the ball away from the touchline. Then you had the big boys at the back, Earthquake and Typhoon. It was Yokozuna, but he wasn't very mobile. You then have the Bear Hug Hogan on the right, who can sort of stick up from the floor. We then had the Ultimate Warrior on the left from the Gritter Press Warrior, who can put on his hands. Bossman Season 1 and Akeem in centre mid. And then up top, you've got the Rockers, HBK and Marty, because it's good for finishing. So it was Sabutio rules. You're allowed a sort of one shot to try and get it near you. And whoever the ball lands nearest can then play the ball. So if I kicked it near his player, it then went to him and vice versa. And we had a ruler rule, which we allowed to 3 times in the match use a ruler to see who the ball was nearest. Otherwise, you've got to go from the attacking team, basically. So that was what we did. And one time, it was first to five. One time, I swear to God this happened, right? It was 4-4. My brothers had a shot. His strikers headed it. Michael Hayes is like this. It's just fallen over, tipped it on the post. Happened, I swear to God. Yeah, so that was that's what we did as a youngster.
How about any more from yourself, Jonathan, on that? Because you talked about your hands behind the back on the Rumble. Did you have any other kind of things that you really remember from it?
I used to do quite a lot of Survivor Series, so I'd probably put them all into a 4, like they did on the old ones. And I did this thing where you called Hide the Wrestling Figure. Basically, I had my full roster of figures, maybe 25 or so. The other kid would go out the room. I'll just hide them in random places throughout the room, and you had to find them all to get there. Sometimes you just put them in the most obvious places and you just couldn't find them because they're just so right in front of you. I just love that game.
Especially with the bushwhackers, they're camouflaged, aren't they?
Well, it depends what the camouflage into.
I remember from mine, I really feel sorry for my neighbours now. I used to line up 30 of them on my shelves, and I used to have a load of those Monster in My Pocket toys, and I used to just take turns, look at them, and absolutely whiz the Monster in My Pocket toy at them. And basically, it was last man standing. So whoever was stood up at the end was the winner of the Rumble. So my neighbour must have just heard constant bang, 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 bang. I spent hours doing it.
Did you break a few doing that?
Apologies if they're watching.
So you started off with Hasbro, obviously, Jamie. Any kind of gaps as you kind of going up from your Hasbro to your Jacks, or did it just continue?
Well, I had a friend that went to America, and obviously I'd never heard of the BCAs until then. He bought me back a Henry Godwin figure from there, which I'd never even seen one before. So I had no idea where they come from. It was the red top dungarees. So, yeah, I'd never seen them in Woolworths or anything, and it must have been when they just got released in America. So they come over, and obviously he comes straight into the tournament. He was quite a big player in the tournament. He's quite big. So I think him and Andre had some epics. But, yeah, for a while, that's all I sort of had, is Henry Godwin in there. And I think I picked up the Monster ring next. So I was playing my Hasbro's in the Monster ring, which is big anyway. It's a repainted LJN ring, isn't it? But, sorry, mate, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say it's a massive ring. It's way too big for any Hasbro's or even BCAs.
You can fit a lot in there. You could have a whole King of the Ring tournament just in that.
It's just too tall. That's what I mean.
Yeah, it's just massive. But then, yeah, we used to play in there, and then I think after a while, they sort of slowly come over here, and I think John Lewis used to sell BCAs. That's where I used to get them from mainly. And then yeah, sort of picked up the odd one here and there, and just sort of integrated it until the Hasbro sort of become managers. The Hasbros did after a while when I started building up my BCAs through there.
Yeah, the size difference, as soon as Jacks came in for me, the size difference, it just wasn't playable. So I didn't enjoy that kind of time period.
No, I think when you've got a Triple H BCA, but you're still rocking the Shawn Michaels Hasbro, it doesn't give the DX sort of the right feel. So yeah, I think after a while the sort of Hasbro took a back burner, and BCA's come forward, and then the Titantrons come out shortly after, and I think that's where it really sort of took off, and imagination start running wild, and you start picking up accessories for it, and the Titantron was the best thing ever made, in my opinion. When you're that age, you've got your music there, haven't you? Before YouTube.
Yeah, revolutionary at the time, but it really couldn't pick up many songs, even for the guys who were meant to be on there. Like, I think I had an X-Pac figure and it would never play the right song.
No, I think I tried to make the Gangrel music play. It never happened. It was always Austin or Vin. Yeah. Even when you pressed the little button underneath the ramp. But yeah, I think that's sort of where it sort of comes from, and then yeah, that's where it went into with the Titantrons.
So the kind of later Jacks, me and John obviously talked about how we weren't really involved in figures in that period. Do you have a better memory of that period?
Yeah, so I think I've spoken to you before about it, but obviously we moved to Cornwall, where when we were in London, we had the illegal a legal skybox, a legal box where you get the pay-per-views for free. Moved on to Cornwall, we didn't have the cable box anymore because it wasn't installed, and they stopped installing it because of the police. So we basically, I never used to watch wrestling that much, but I was still interested. I still have my old videos. I had a French exchange student who came over to Cornwall, and we sort of exchanged details, and he'd send me tapes from Sky Sports France, wherever it was. So I'd get all these French commentary wrestling tapes of like early Ruthless Aggression eras, so like 2001, 2002. Just get constant tapes every month of the 3 Raws and SmackDowns. So that's what sort of kept up to it. And then going into the Ruthless Aggression era, I met a friend in school who was also into wrestling. They went around his house. Luckily, he had Sky. Every weekend we'd be around there, Friday, Saturday, stay around his house, watch Raw on the Friday night, SmackDown on the Saturday morning, and just play with wrestling figures and things like that.
Is that when you didn't ditch the French guy? You didn't need him anymore?
No, I just stopped responding to him. Sorry for the
That was shocking.
I've moved on. I stopped speaking to him. I do feel a bit bad for him though, because I think when he came over for the French exchange, he brought me over this big banquet of French stuff, and I completely forgot he was coming over, so I just gave him my lunch. He got a ham sandwich and a can of Coke. Yeah, that's English apparently. Yeah, so that's sort of what happened then. And I think we started the chamber come out, and I remember we started using the Elimination Chamber, which was massive back then. That must have been 2004, I think. So. And then,
So how old are we looking at you then?
13, 14. It was around that sort of era. I'm listening to Evanescence. I'm listening to sort of relatively aggressive rock music, which luckily wrestling sort of tied into, because all the pay-per-views had like really popular American sort of rock band songs at the time, like Limp Bizkit, Saliva, Evanescence had a theme song. So luckily at the time that was sort of going with what I was listening to, so that was quite good. Really gets you hyped up for a pay-per-view, I find.
My favourite was always actually the Lita one, the Boy Hits Car.
Boy Hits Car? Oh, the theme song?
Yeah,
that was where they're screaming.
Yeah.
I hear that one.
So bad she rules me, is that what it shouts? Yeah. I listened to that on the way home on the Forceful Entry album.
So what about Jamie the Man then? Obviously, we're starting to get into the end of Jack's Mattel when you reach that age. Did Jamie the Man continue collecting, or did you have a gap?
No, so I got to 15, I'd say. Left all my figures at my friend's house. Didn't really speak to him anymore, even to a point, because I was quite popular, and good-looking chap. So I stopped talking to him, and I didn't really speak to him enough to get my figures back. So did that, moved to London again, didn't really watch wrestling at all, and then picked it up again when Lesnar come back in 2011. Sort of picked it up then, because I think the first clip I'd watched for wrestling in ages was when The Rock was announced as the host of Mania. And then, obviously, it was then sort of bought from there. So I watched that WrestleMania. I watched Lesnar come back. Obviously, then started watching it weekly again and sort of started really getting into it. It's just like 2011. So this is like The Miz. I think Zack Ryder was on the way up. Ziggler. And I think it was a really good time for wrestling. I think it was just sort of really good to watch and really quite fun. So I think that's when I started getting back into it. Figures-wise, I just sort of picked up a few bits here and there. Went into a place in Cardiff. I think it was into the Toys R Us, I think, when that was still going. This was only 4 years ago, I think. Picked up a few elites in there. Might have been Harlem Heat and the Heritage series when that came out. I think there were 5
Lost Legends.
No, the one with Taker and Kane. Just 2 of them, the Heritage.
Oh, yeah, WrestleMania. Yeah.
Yeah, the Kane with the stretcher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm picking them up. There were 5 of each, any elite in there. So I picked up the Regal and Harlem Heat and those as well.
The days of deals.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was picking up just basics. I think Asda had like 3 for 20 quid on basics. I remember picking those up. And then, so I had a good stash of them. And it wasn't until early this year, it might have been January, early Feb, someone put a listing up on the local Facebook marketplace. It was 85 figures for 20 quid. Mattels as well, Elites and Basics. So I've picked them up, and then literally just didn't really want any of them, but it's just a good deal. In total, I sold them all for 487 quid in total.
Little scalper, yeah.
I know. But then used that to then buy the figures that I did want. So that's sort of where it sort of brought me round to anyway. And then really just got into the wrestling, met Adam through the Fantasy League, and sort of all taken from there really, and loved it ever since, even though the current product is questionable at times.
That's a nice way to put it.
We saw your video where you were taking us through a little bit of your shelves. What is your current plan for your shelves?
It's just stuff that I remember. Do you ever sort of look at figures and it just brings back the nostalgia? For me, that's figures like the Warlord figure. 'Cause I think I remember him having quite a big rivalry with Big British Bulldog and sort of ones like that. Just they bring back the ones that look like the Hasbros, which are one of my favourite ones to have, because it brings back, it's the Hasbro one, but it has a current day, more realistic figure, which I think is one of my favourite ones to pick up.
Yeah, I think Mattel sort of actually went out of the way to do Hasbro versions of things. Like you see that Yokozuna with the backward pants that he never wore, being made by Mattel. I think they brought the blue honky tonk man out just to match that one. Greg Valentine's exactly the same.
The Dusty.
This goes on forever. The amount of figures that they're just trying to almost re-release from the Hasbro days.
Because we look at
those things.
Well, some of the Hasbros, they wear clothes that they very rarely wore, like Hacksaw Jim Duggan with the blue top on. But they released, Mattel did one with the blue top on, the Retrofest ones. I think there is like a little wink back towards the Hasbro thing, which is my favourite ones to pick up. It brings back the nostalgia, basically.
Yeah, it's a good marketing plan by Mattel. I think people kind of our age would be automatically drawn to them. And just going back to that Warlord figure, probably one of the most underrated figures for me. I think it's an amazing figure with really good accessories. Looks exactly like him. You can even take the accessories off and use him as the kind of WCW Warlord. So great figure for me, that one. So we're going to hit you to finish with the three big questions. So first of all, what is the best make of figures, as in LJN, Hasbro, etc., etc.?
The Three Amigos. For me, I'd say for a blend of nostalgia and playability, I'm going to say the Jakks BCAs. Only because I look at an X-Pack now and it just brings me back to being 9-10 years old and playing with them, and even like the Road Dog, for example, and the Billy Gun, and I have a little DX, and it sort of brings all that back for me. So I think I'd say the Jakks BCA for my age group.
Different. I don't think many people will come up with that answer, so I like it.
No.
What about the best line of figures? So from any of those, it doesn't have to be the Jakks BCA. From any line of figures, what's your best series or line?
It's a good one, really. Not one that I asked you to, I don't think. I'd say I quite like the sort of SummerSlam one that you mentioned earlier, with the accessories that you get with the hardcore accessories. Even though the accessory didn't make any sense, I don't want a hardcore Holly that comes with, I don't know, a crate or a pallet. Doesn't make any sense to me. But as a kid, you want a hardcore Holly figure regardless if it's got a jacket or not. And if you get a free weapon in there, lovely. Pop me a pallet in there. I'll use that all day. So yeah, I think that those sort of lines where you just get a random thing in there that you wouldn't get otherwise, basically.
That's really interesting because in my world, I hated that. I hated when you got things with them that had nothing to do with the character or the figure, and it made no sense to me. I just didn't like that. I can appreciate it more now in my old days, but I didn't like that as a child growing up. How about you, John, on that one?
I never really experienced that as a child because I wasn't really buying the Jack stuff. Although, to be honest, to what Jamie says, yeah, I did like when they included a belt or a chair, or I can't remember what else they might have included with things like that. It actually did come in handy quite a lot.
Yeah,
So
'cause
I'm for it.
for a while, I think I used the $1 million belt that come with $1 Million Man's Hasbro for. I used it up until the Titantrons, I think, because I don't think I actually got another belt.
Yeah,
When you
holds up
figure that.
well.
Yeah, so I think I used that for my main belt, and I think I had another one which I might have damaged on purpose just to use it for an IC tile, so it's a bit different. I think I got some Galoobs with a belt as well. I think the Freebirds come with some belts.
I think everything came with the belts
Yeah.
in WCW,
No, 'cause
Yeah, they did.
everyone got a championship, didn't they? So that makes sense.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And the final biggie question. So there is a non-real fire in your house. Yeah, everyone's safe, as we keep saying on every video, just to make sure. But you're able to grab one figure on your way out. Who are you going to save and why?
Well, I'm also going to save Arnie. I know he saved the world in Terminator 2, allegedly. So I'll save him. I think it's because you can't really replace it, can you? I think.
I hate to break it to you, but this is not a wrestling figure, so you have to try again with your answer.
In my world, it was. Okay, well, I'll probably grab my Roddy Piper in that case. Always a favourite as a kid, and once again, it looks like the Hasbro. They come with the Hot Rod T-shirt and the kilt. So I'll probably grab Roddy Piper. I think he's one of my newest ones as well. So
Which one's
So
that?
are you talking about the Hasbro there, or
no,
talking
the
about
Mattel Elite Roddy Piper. The one with the hot rod top and the kilt that doesn't do up properly and stay on.
That Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the Legends one, not made of money.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's, if it's a non, it has to be a wrestling one, I'd probably grab that because I think I've waited for ages for it to be a reasonable price.
So, Mr. Fenton, you got any last words for Mr. Wills?
I think we've kind of discovered that Mr. Wills might be the resident expert on the BCAs or even the Titantron Lives. He seems to know a lot more about that era than we do. So it was good to learn that, and certainly may pick up some knowledge of him and fill up any gaps that we got regarding that era of figures.
Yeah, I mean, I say Titantron was just, you have that sort of age where you just an information sponge, where you just sort of take everything in, and but normally between about 10 and 14, you just take everything in. I'd say around that time, that's when the BCAs come in. So I remember quite vividly. I remember I had the stage where it was like a trash talking stage, I think it was called, and it had the same Titantron thing on there, but you could use Jericho, which I think was a bit of a game changer because you can pop your Chris Jericho on and he'd talk smack, and you can put on your Kurt Angle, whatever it was. Also remember going into the entertainment when it first opened. Do you remember the finishing move series they had? Did you ever see those?
Yeah, I thought they were really cool at first. It just annoyed me that it didn't come with elbow pads and things like that. That would be bare minimum in terms of
the hair was always flying around.
But they could do some good moves with them. They just were kind of out of place with the other figures, unfortunately.
Yeah, scale-wise.
Yeah.
The Rikishi one was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
The Rikishi figure, because it was as thin as kind of an edge type figure.
Yeah.
It was awful.
I remember Scotty 2 Hotty. I remember I picked up a Scotty 2 Hotty figure. It come with a boombox, and you can press the boombox and it will play his theme song. Walker Entertainer, just pressing that and just carrying the figure around with me. I'm gonna buy it, but I used to do that. And I used to, Steve Blackman I remember quite well picking up, and all those sort of lower mid card guys that you get from that era. I used to pick up every time I went there with Mum. And then I remember there was a WCW line. It looked like bootleg figures, but they weren't bootleg figures. I remember I bought a Buff Bagwell. I don't know if it was an official, was it original San Francisco Toy Makers?
Yeah, yes.
I think they were £3 at the time. I remember picking them up.
Never seen them. don't think.
Oh, I'll send you a picture. And you had
No, I mean, I know what they are, but I can't remember seeing them as a child.
oh yeah, the £3. I remember I convinced my mum to buy me 4 of them because they were cheap.
Jimmy has. Oh, is he back?
No, I'm here. Yeah. Yeah, so I remember picking them up as a child because they were quite cheap, which is good. And then I remember picking up the Big Show with Rey Mysterio, the one that come with the little Rey with the long neck.
Weird figure.
Very weird, but Rey Mysterio made it. It was yeah, he sort of made it into my little toy room, so that's always good. And there was a buff Bagwell that come with a hat, and you could shoot a rocket out of his hat.
Yeah, the red one.
With a little like dummy, which his arms and legs would fall off.
Yeah, that was terrible. I mean, I've only seen that recently when I've sold one, but yeah, terrible accessory.
Not a good figure. I had that, and I had Raven that come with a trash can.
Yeah.
And there was. I didn't really collect WWE figures, but I used to pick them up because I never used to watch it. We were banned from watching it because we only used to watch it at my mum's house on a Friday night. My brother once had a fight because of watching the wrestling and broke his finger, so we weren't able to watch it anymore. So we know what was happening from the figures. And they had these. There's like a car door that come with one of them, and you'd push the car door and it would play sounds.
I thought that came with a Jax figure.
It might have come with a Jax figure. I remember that, and there's motorbikes as well that come with them.
Yeah.
And lockers that come with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, always at the bottom of the toy box was a locker door.
Right, Mr. Wills, I think we're going to hit this one on the head because you've gone a bit Grandpa Simpson on us, off on your tangents as usual. So, you guys have been watching 3 Points of Articulation. Thank you very much to Jonathan Fenton.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Big Tasty Jamie Wills.
I think we should have like a sign for the 3 Points of Articulation. We should have a...
You just do that.
Yeah, you do that.
And I've been Adam the Wrestling Man. Hopefully next time we will get properly into the podcast, have a few segments for you, ongoing things like that. And goodbye for now.